So, welcome all of you. Welcome all the faculties and the delegates. Good morning, first of all,
Good
this
morning,
Sunday
sir.
morning. Uh, Dr. Arvind sir, good morning and good morning,
Good morning.
everyone. Uh, so, today we are having a webinar on psychiatry. We had undergone a tremendous anxiety, I would say anger, and also a lot of death have been, millions of death have been in the whole of the world due to this pandemic. And because of this, a lot of things have taken place, and people have to cope up with all the pressures. Main thing about the doctors working force 24 by 7, and this caused a lot of, I would say, problems. Some had succumbed, and I would say we'll have a homage and tribute to these Corona warriors. On our side, from IMA, I pay my respect and tribute to these people and dear ones who have succumbed in this pandemic. We have seen a lot of billions of death around these 6 months. Doctors have done their best to save maximum of life. Here in this critical phase, lockdown has opened, schools are about to open, shops have opened, and there's again anxiety what to do exactly. Second wave is also coming in Britain. We have heard that there is a lockdown complete in Britain. So everywhere there is a chaos and fear, anxiety, neurosis to say. For this, we had requested our psychiatry faculties that we should go for it. We have seen some suicides, depression, a lot of things. So for this, it will be better. Our stalwarts, I would request them to start this webinar. First and foremost, I request Dr. Arti Nimkar, our president, to and brief about this webinar. Please take over, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. And I hope that all are in good health and sound mind because COVID has been a tough for all of us. Some of are having fear of the job loss, some are overworked, some are frustrated being stuck at the home for the long time, and some could be the having genuine health problems and have lost their loved ones, and this terrible virus is affecting everywhere. The point is that at this point everyone is going through this crisis, but how do we not be affected us by the virus? That these psychiatry people will tell us today. And here are my some 3 points to save ourselves and see through this crisis. The first point is be patient. Tell yourself that this time shall pass, and it does pass, and it will pass. There have been so many tough times that we have seen in the past that it does not scare anymore. And I know that we just have to see through the bad time. The second point is the be grateful that there are so many things to be currently grateful for: the food on the table, the family in the and the friends, the job and other things that are automatically taken care of. It's time to acknowledge them gratefully and be positive that it's tough to be positive in this hard time, but try it out. See and all the goodnesses around you and be grateful for the God goodness, and you will automatically become positive. Positivity leads to the good health and the happiness. And because of this viral infection, and everywhere, every system is affected. Healthcare system is affected, economy is affected, social services are affected, and researchers also going through the hard time, and this affects our the mental gives the mental stress and affects our mental health also. So we will see that this expert, through this experts opinion and presentations and guidance, how to tackle this COVID infection successfully and go past, we can pass through it. I request to our Secretary Rajan Sanchati to continue further.
Thank you, madam. And I would like to introduce our stalwart, Dr. Arvind Panchanandikar, who is the
Thank
moderator
you.
and the convener. Sir is a very senior psychiatrist. Since 20 years, he is practicing in Pune. Sir has been MD in psychiatry, diploma from the University of Leeds, and special interest is in child psychiatry. So I request sir to take over this webinar. Please, sir. Thanks a lot
Thank,
to join.
thank you. Thanks a lot. And thanks IMA for the invite and all the office bearers for us to get here. So thank you, Dr. Sancheti. Thank you, Dr. Nimkar, ma'am. At the outset, madam, I would like to disagree with what you said. I know it's not a good thing to do that because when you gave us your little chat, you said it's very difficult to be positive. I would say it's very easy to be positive if we are idiotic enough, not wearing a face mask, not maintaining social distance, and meeting friends. Of course, I'm talking about COVID. So it's very easy to be COVID positive, but it's, yes, I get your point. It's very difficult to remain positive in your mind frame. And that's why I think we are having this webinar to see how we can deal with that. So basically, we are now into the 7th month of, officially, the 7th month since 23rd of March into this COVID pandemic. And by now, it's kind of very clear to every one of us that it's not just a simple any other viral disease. And why is that? Is because there's a lot of uncertainty. We exactly don't know what we are dealing with. So the enemy is not known. The enemy may be changing. There is a constantly changing, emerging clinical picture. Various different guidelines keep coming through, and it's often gets difficult what to follow. And as we see with some of the disasters, that it's not just the disaster like this pandemic, but the measures that we undertake to prevent it cause more anxiety than having the disease at times. So wearing face masks, not knowing what the other person is saying or thinking, or showing the facial expressions, because we do engage a lot into reading lips and reading emotions when someone talks. The social isolation, not meeting friends, family, all this makes it difficult for every individual to uh, deal with this. But we as doctors, we have kind of a double dose of it. Is we are the sufferers in this, as well as we are supposed to be, and we are the caregivers. So while being exposed to the pandemic, we are also providing care, and in turn we take their worries on. So on top of our own worries, caring for COVID patients kind of multiplies our worries manifold, and it becomes extremely difficult at times because we know the severe end of the spectrum too. So we tend to worry even more. And this is not to forget all the deaths that are happening around us, all the negative media attention that we as doctors are getting, completely unnecessary, but it's been happening. And all this happening on the backdrop of limited resources. So our challenge is to see how we remain focused, how we remain, as Madam said, positive in terms of our minds. So we have two very esteemed speakers ahead for us today. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Kaustubh Zog first. And he's going to talk on the psychosocial response to COVID and the desired coping skills to deal with the distress. And after him, we have Dr. Manjari Datar, who, I don't want to say this, but she's lucky enough to be on both sides of the table and emerge out stronger. So Manjari has first-hand experience of fighting with COVID successfully, obviously. So basically, in short, about Dr. Kaustubh is he's a psychiatrist by training and has been a consultant psychiatrist for the last 14 years. Nowadays, there is this fancy thing going about doing things that are rare, but very few people deal with common simple things which are more challenging. And Dr. Kaustubh takes pride in having a special interest in common mental illnesses that affect every one of us, like depression and anxiety. So dealing with these uh, depression and anxiety is his special interest. He also works as a senior research fellow in a project and a large scale community based mental health project called Atmiyata. He has also completed the International Diploma in Mental Health, Human Rights, and Law at the Indian Law Society. So I have hand over this to Dr. Kaustubh Zog for his presentation. Kaustubh, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
introduction.
And obviously, I've missed out on a few alphabets that you sent me. I wasn't sure what I meant. So if you could tell us what
No.
CMHLP means, I think that will educate me as well. So thanks.
Sorry. It's just
No, no, no.
it's the Center for Mental Health Law and Policy where I also work part.
Thank you. Thanks, Kaustubh.
Uh, a- at the outset, I'll thank IMA Pune for I think inviting and being a part of this webinar. I think without wasting any time, I'll start with my presentation. I have few slides to cover, so I'll just share my screen. Yeah. So as Dr. Arvind has said, and also the Nimkar madam and Dr. Sancheti has said, what I'll do is today, just over next 25 minutes or so, I will lay down the, kind of a pitch and give you a general sense of around mental health, well-being, what is happening to us in COVID-19 pandemic, being a health professional, our families, and so on. So I'll try to cover these three things. The first important, as Dr. Arvind has said, psychosocial response to COVID-19 pandemic. Overview of common mental health issues. I thought ki even we are talking specifically about COVID-19 pandemic, I think as a health professionals, it will be good if we understand what are these common mental health issues, starting from the distress to depression and anxiety. Again, I'm going to touch upon this briefly, these first two points. The major part of my, I think, talk will be around coping skills and self-care. Again, there is no science in this, but there are scientific tips and from a psychological and mental health science over years, what we have, came to a conclusion about the self-care as well as the coping skills. Before starting, I will just as a disclaimer, I say that there are 2 or 3 slides which I have used a material from World Health Organization because they have standardized and researched out material around mental health, well-being, and the coping skills. So let me start with this psychosocial response to the pandemic. I think we all are aware, and last 6 to 7 months, I think the way this pandemic is spanning out, as we discussed earlier, there is a lot of uncertainties, fear are going on. Let's see what are these different fears. I think every one of us, when we'll go through these points, will realize, or I think understand, that every one of us must have gone one of these fears or many of these fears in last 6 months. I think the first important point is a fear of getting infected. Being, I think, healthcare professional, this is, I think, most common worry everyone had. Our families had that worry too. Our children had that worries too. Falling ill, also we are worried about our health of loved ones. Initially and now also there was a fear of being placed in quarantine. Again, this is more for people. Dr. Manjiri will talk about her experience going through COVID-19. Avoiding approaching health facilities, that is another part. I think at least we've seen this is again for other common people. Fear of losing friends, social connections, not able to meet people during this isolation, fear of uncertainties in future. I think that is the biggest worry what all of us have, as the uncertainty looms. And even 7 months down the line, we don't know when things are going to start normally, be it our practice, surgeries, hospitals, OPDs, and so on, as well as the other part of our life, be it schools, colleges, going out openly, uh, for a shopping or any other thing, or entertainment. Now this uncertainty psychologically, or what we call as a response to this uncertainty, these are the basically a negative part of the stress or a distress. A is a helplessness, then starts the boredom, loneliness, that is another part basically which kind of kicks in. Then comes the depression, which is due to being isolated. So these are the different response, psychological response which comes out. Then specifically, as we must have understood, for doctors or healthcare professionals which are there and caring for giving care to people with COVID-19, there is a lot of fatigue. What is they are experiencing? There is a burnout already which has been starting. Two of my friends who said they feel that they have now become older, more than 2 years working for last 6 months in COVID-19 ICUs. I think doctors are feeling they are getting more older by 2 to 3 years. And this looks like a never ending process. I think that is the worry, that is the fear what we have. Increased use of alcohol and substance abuse, that is another mental health issue. And increasing depression also. I've written down, I'll read this in a minute. Obviously, the participants also can read it. This is how the case study or the real life case scenario have spanned out. So this is a case study about a Suhas, who is a 27 years old, an engineer working in Pune for last 2 years. As COVID-19 started increasing, numbers started increasing, lockdown got announced, and he basically have to travel home, stay with his parents. His father is a general practitioner in a small district place. Mother is a school teacher, and he started working from home since April. For an initial period, he was fine, but there was uncertainties around his job as well as his future prospects. He's worried about his parents getting exposed to people and fear of them getting infected. His father has a diabetes too. Every day he used to read news about the pandemic and used to follow the numbers. Every morning kind of a activity through the media. Slowly, the fear and uncertainty started affecting him. His sleep got disturbed. He was not able to concentrate on the work. He started feeling anxiety, shakiness sometimes, and he used to get irritated with his parents. So just to lay down how this has, this is just a person I am just trying to present, but how pandemic has affected over a period to everyone's mental health or a psychological health. So to get into the next, I think, point, what I will just lay down, as I said, in a brief manner, just talk about overall mental health, well-being, distress, and common mental health issues. Again, this is a slide which, as I said, adapted from World Health Organization. This is a comprehensive slide. It may not be a good to view or a visual thing right now, but again, you can download it from World Health Organization's website. But this is a very comprehensive slide. I think whenever we talk about well-being or mental health, I think if you can refer to these slides, this covers all aspects of our life, starting from our basic needs, having control over life, our attitude towards oneself, our purpose in life, the existential issues which we have, overcoming challenges, like right now we are overcoming our challenges in this pandemic, relationship with others, that is another point, and the engagement. So different activities which gives us a reward and satisfaction. So this is the whole gamut of a mental health or a well-being. Getting into what is stress, again, I think as we all know what is stress, it's the individual's physical and psychological response to a situation. just to reiterate, I think stress is differs from person to person. So one person having a stress or distress is not similar to other person. So stress is a very individual process and an individual experience. Obviously, stress is not bad always. If you did not feel stressed about examination, then you would not prepare well. It's a simple example of that. Stress always increases your strength or power to respond to any challenge or any situation. Moving on, what is distress? Distress is when stress is more, it is more negative, and that becomes an extreme negative state in which our coping mechanisms fail to return a person to a stable physiological or a psychosocial state. So that's a distress for us. Generally, distress stays longer. So whenever we feel stress, stress is maybe for a day or 2 3 days. But sometimes when it gets into a distress, it stays longer. The effects of distress stays longer. And most commonly, as we are now facing, the distress is mostly due to unexpected stressful situation and unhelpful adaptation to the situation, or both the things. These are some of the signs of the distress we are already talking about. These are very common things which I think all of us must have in our lifetime have experienced the distress. So the common signs of distress are constantly worrying about what will happen in future, being constantly alert to things around you, feelings of guilt, sadness, anger, disappointment, avoiding the problem or cause of the stress, feeling exhausted, fatigue, headache, backache, disturbed sleep, bodily aches and pains, poor concentration, and low on interest. Again, the signs, these signs are just is just in a order, but they come gradually, they increase gradually, or they can come together. So it's again a subjective experience, as I said earlier. Moving on, and again, when I just to give a little bit a minute here, that if you see now, this is how the common mental health spectrum look like. So it's a stress, then it goes to distress, and now people who cannot cope up with the distress, or the situation is very unexpected and very severe in intensity, then what they go into what we call as a common mental health issues. There are two most common mental health issues which are called as depression and anxiety. Why they are called common? Because they are common in occurrence. They are related to our day-to-day life and social situations and environment. That's why any one of us are at a risk of going through this situation, or this common mental health issues, depression and anxiety. And generally, this is a balance between the stressful situation, its impact, and our coping. So that is how common mental health issues span out. Just to differentiate between distress and common mental health issues, these are the three pointers or three criterias everyone can remember. Whenever the symptoms or signs of common mental health issues are very severe, when they are impacting our functioning and day-to-day activities, and if the duration of these signs and symptoms is staying more than 2 weeks, spanning to months, then definitely this is then any one of us or any person going through this is actually already in that spectrum of common mental health issues. So these three criteria generally clinically, we kind of that's a boundary between the distress and the common mental health issues. Just I'll go through the list of symptoms. Again, I don't want to get into a details of it, but when we say depression classically has a low mood, irritability, anger, or crying spells. There is a reduction in interest, energy levels, concentration levels are low, confidence and motivation goes down. And the core of depression always is feeling of helplessness, hopelessness, and worthlessness, along with the sleep, appetite disturbances. And when depression becomes severe or moderate to severe, then there are ideas of suicide and plans of suicide. At the contrast, the anxiety is little bit different clinically. It's basically a constant worry and feeling of restlessness, feeling of being on the edge, like feeling of jittery always. Again, in anxiety, people do experience a lot of physical symptoms. As I have pointed out, a lot of these physical symptoms which mimic a lot of physical health issues, like like any other neurological or heart related conditions. And also in anxiety, there is a sleep disturbance, poor appetite, poor concentration, and feeling weakness. So just to give you I think the spectrum of mental health issues, starting from what is well-being, what is mental health, to stress, distress, depression, and anxiety. I thought uh, when we go through a psychological response, when we talk about psychosocial response to a pandemic, we need to remember these are the commonest effects what we, our near ones, dear ones, our relatives, or our patients are going to have. Uh, Moving on, I think the main, I think the purpose of today's, maybe there is a lot of negatives which I have shared till now, but now I think it's time to talk about more. As Dr. Arvind has also said, it is talk about positive, or Dr. Nimkar ma'am also said about talk about positives and how to cope and how to self-care. The word self-care is here nothing but as we in the pandemic, as we talk about what is individual's responsibility to take care, like wearing mask, wearing a face shield, having sanitizer. So self-care in mental health is nothing but like any other physical health care. So like basic hygiene, as we talk about for physical health, that's the self-care for physical health. Now that is with the way we are going to talk about the self-care in mental health. So what is coping? I think again, this is a more like a theoretical or a technical definition. Coping is way to prevent, delay, avoid, or manage stress. It's like a typical book definition, but we understand coping. I think every one of us knows, and day-to-day life, from starting from morning to night, I think we go through the mechanisms. Earlier, the another term is a defense mechanism, in not a similar but kind of a synonymous term. So that's the coping, the way we deal with environment around us, the way we deal with our own thoughts, our own emotions. That's the coping. So what are the general coping strategies? And I have highlighted, or I have in different color, the two coping strategies which are important currently in this pandemic. Obviously, all these coping strategies are important. So it's not like this is the only important, these two are the only important strategies. But generally, the first important part, as we all know, activation, as we call our activities. So be it work, studies, exercise, or practice, going out and having a schedule. I think that this is the important, I think, in theoretically, in my experience also, a very important tool to cope up with any distress, any stressful situation. If you don't involve in activities, and if you tend to be empty, not doing anything, I think that's the sign of not a very good coping strategy, and that can lead to to the distress, common mental health issues. So I think we have to remember that activation every day activity scheduling is very, very important coping mechanism. Then having a meaningful relationships, be it a family relationship, be it a social relationship, that's also very important to having, to build our emotional capacity, emotional strength. Now, these two things, basically, if we continue to do activities, if we continue to engage in meaningful relationship, will lead to having a purpose and clear goals in our life. I think it's everything, as you know, or as you see, basically interconnected. These are not standalone coping strategies. Obviously, the next point is well-formed self-identity. So having a self-esteem, having a self-belief in ourselves, and having a well-formed self-identity is also one of the core of a coping skills or coping strategy. More importantly, coming these two last points on this slide, hope and self reassurance. I think this is very, very important. Having a hope and self reassurance in these difficult times. Resilience, as earlier discussed, adaptation to a difficult and unexpected situation is a very, very important coping mechanism right now. These are more psychological mechanisms. Obviously, we can motivate others, reassure others, but everyone should have and practice having hope and self reassurance in difficult times. Resilience is also another skill to have. And please remember, when I'm talking about these coping strategies, it is nothing like, there is nothing like a new thing which you have to learn. I think every one of us from childhood to now has used these different coping mechanisms or coping skills. So it's not like this is the first time we are hearing, or first time you are going to learn about these coping strategies. And that's an important factor. I think that is where self belief comes in play. That if we tell ourselves that these are the coping mechanisms I have used earlier, There were difficult times. Yes, the pandemic is different. Pandemic is, have shown us a different challenges, but that doesn't mean we have not gone through any other challenges, and we can, adapt to this situation and go through this phase or go through this situation. Now, this is again, I won't go deeply into this slide. This is again adapted from WHO mental health department. They have created this slide. Again, this is a comprehensive, what you can say, the list of coping mechanisms, what we have. Again, you can go through this slide later. I won't waste too much time here. So what are the tips, specific tips, when we say coping during the pandemic? I think the first point is more around people who are non-medical professionals or non-health professionals, maybe getting the facts, because many of the people around us, I think, who are non-health professional are getting a lot of myths. They are getting a lot of wrong information, thanks to media, maybe, or thanks to a WhatsApp, to be specific, that there is a lot of myths and misunderstandings about this pandemic has spread and still continue to spread. Even if we are 6 to 7 months down the line, unfortunately, it is still happening. So it's important to advise anyone to find a credible source who they can trust, maybe a public health agency, local or state public health, maybe a doctors in family, friends. I think that is very important, to find a credible source to get the information. Basically, I think we all need to limit worry and agitation. The more important factor here, reduce the time watching and listening to media coverage. And that's, I think, very important. From day one, we are trying to advise even to our clients also, that don't listen to media, particularly the old people who are, for them, I think their lifestyle has become the media, particularly the print media, and the television has become the part of their life, and now the smartphone, WhatsApp, or any other social media. I think the more and more they watch the news around COVID-19, I have seen multiple people going through anxieties and fear and losing their sleep over after watching the news and watching the media. And as I already said, this is the same point, that please remember, each one of us has used the coping skills earlier. And lastly, I will come on to the self-care plan. Basically, develop a self-care plan. So that's, I think, I'll talk about the self-care specifically. And when I say self-care plan, individualistic self-care plan you can make, and you can, start indulging into. So that's the last part of my talk now. What is a self-care? I think I already said self-care is basically it's the ability inside us. Everyone has this ability to maintain a positive attitude towards generally the work despite challenges. When I say work, everything, day-to-day activities, environment around our own self, our own emotions. Again, self-care can be achieved step by step. It's just like a process by involving yourself in self-reflective awareness activities, and hence able to connect with oneself. So again, that's a process there involved in the self-care. Self-care is a habit. Basically, it can be developed through conscious practice. I think these are the important word, the conscious practice. As we all know, if we talk about exercise or diet, if we want to reduce weight, everything comes through a conscious practice. Knowing the theory and converting that theory into practice is a different ball game. And one who involves in the conscious practice of those theoretical principles will only able to achieve the goal, or achieve the basically what is desired outcome of that process. So the same imply here for the self care. uh, Now, what is importance of self care? Basically, again, as we know, as I said, in physical health, the way hygiene works to prevent, and similarly, mental health self care will build self control, will build motivation, and build confidence inside you. I think that is the important part. Uh, the form of self-care activities, if you indulge in, if you practice on day-to-day basis, I think it will improve your coping. It will prevent you from stress, anxiety, depression, any form of common mental health issues. And these are the important, I think, points to remember. So what are these tips for self-care? Again, if you go through this slide, you can understand this is not a, it's not like a rocket science. Again, the point here I will again reiterate is theoretically, all these things look very easy. The problem is having a sustained motivation and a conscious practice of these things. So be it a daily activity, for example, we all have our activity schedule. Like when we get up, when we start working, how do we go through our day-to-day time? Our priorities in life, they keep on changing as we grow older, and our time management. But unfortunately, there are multiple people or many people who can't follow the daily activity schedule. And again, I want to stress this point, that common mental health issues are very well connected if one doesn't follow the daily activity schedule. Particularly young people right now, young people, if you see the way their I think the lifestyle has changed. Definitely youth, we are seeing there are mental health issues which are rising, particularly the suicide which is rising. There is one of this factor of having a poor daily activity schedule. So I think we have to very conscious about this issue. Exercise, relaxation exercise, I won't talk much. I think there is already a lot of knowledge and awareness among ourselves about exercise and relaxation exercise. Leisure activities, again, there is unfortunately media exposure is become one of the commonest leisure activity now. So be it and smartphone unfortunately has brought that media exposure in hand and everywhere. So I think the commonest habit when we wake up is we see our smartphone, and there is no other and I think this is again there is a element of benefit in it, but there is a huge risk of increasing this into a addiction and causing common mental health issues. The next point, again, this is linked because this smartphone high use has caused a lot of loneliness. And again, typically in all of us, as well as in people who are a young generation. So remaining connected with friends, families, and others. And when I say connected, obviously through a social media or through a phone, but in face to face, I think is very important. Lastly, basically, whenever you are talking about your own plan, I will say basically try to set your own goals, like we do for a diet or a weight reduction. We set our own goals, that I want to reduce my weight this much, I want to so set your goals, what you want to do exactly on day to day basis, what you want to achieve, what is your purpose, and then put efforts to achieve that goal. We already said there is a positive positive mindset, and yes, definitely if we have a positive self talk, basically believing in our capacity, telling ourselves on day to day basis that I can do it, I have a capacity to do it, then that also has a positive impact on our motivation and enthusiasm. So these are some of the tips for self care. How do you execute? I think execution is nothing but like any other management of our day to day life activities. So first thing, you have to identify the gaps if you want to start your self planning your self care and executing your self care. First point, identify the gap. What is missing exactly? Are you getting your sleep routine is disturbed, whether your diet or regular intake of food or is a problem, you are not exercising, whether you are getting a lot of thoughts, your worrisome thoughts, where your social life or social connections, social interaction are missing, where you are not able to meet your family and friends. What exactly you are the gap is. I think identifying gap is the main thing. Then obviously write down the plan, that how do you close this gap. Be it again, all this I've just given these few examples. Everyone has their different gaps in their life, and when I say gaps, it's more of a from a mental health perspective. Then write down the plan, execute the plan, keep the track of that plan, reflect and feedback, and modify the plan. As I said, very typically, any kind of a, it's like a management principle. So anything you want to do, there is a process. Again, for a self-care, there is a process. Self-care doesn't come automatically to us. I think there is a process which involves. Obviously, our coping is one of the part of this self-care. We continue to cope up with these difficult things, challenges, and day-to-day life. That's a part of a self-care. The last point here is an important thing, which is again, every one of us knows, discipline, consistency, and practice. I think there is no medication which can replace these three factors. I think there is no in any health sector, in any medical medicine, basically there is no medicine which can replace this. discipline, consistency, and practice. I think if we continue to do that, I think any one of us can achieve this self-care. Any one of us can improvise on our coping, and I think have that resilience, or those coping mechanisms which can basically prevent us or protect us from getting into any kind of a depression or anxiety. I think that's where I'm going to stay. That's it from my side. I'm not going to go through these exercises. These are very common things nowadays through social media. They are available everywhere. So I'm not going through these points of relaxation exercise. And that nowadays, I think this is the new term, mindfulness. And again, mindfulness is nothing but, I think, a way of relaxing your mind. There is nothing. It's again not a rocket science. There are different exercises of mindfulness which you can practice on day-to-day basis, or common relaxation exercises. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much once again. I hope I was clear and I was able to deliver what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kaustubh. Thanks for a very nice step by step, to the point, and achievable presentation. So, for the next part of this webinar, I now hand you over to Dr. Jyoti Shetty. So, Dr. Shetty.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And thank you, IMA
Madam,
Pune.
just a minute. I would like to introduce you first,
Okay.
because it is better that we people
Yeah.
introduce in a very good way. So, Dr. Jyoti Shetty is a professor and HOD in Bharati Medical College from Department of Psychiatry. Main thing, she is the president of IPS, and I would say most lovable to her patients, because a lot of feedbacks gets to us, to IMA also. She is more, I would say, in child psychiatry, her interest is there. So I would request Madam to take over and just get our webinar further. Thank you, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Sancheti. And thank you, IMA Pune, for inviting me. Thank you, Dr. Nimkar. At the outset, I would say, Dr. Kaustubh, it was a very wonderful overview of your presentation. I think there are a couple of questions which can be addressed later. I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Manjari Datar. As Dr. Arvind said earlier, she is experienced COVID from the other side as a patient and as a caregiver for her family, which was also affected by COVID. And they have come out of it now. So this will be not only a psychiatrist perspective, but it will be a psychiatrist perspective as a patient and as a caregiver and a stakeholder in the whole process. So Dr. Manjari is the associate professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Bharati Vidyapeeth Medical College and Bharati Hospital. So she is my faculty. She has several years of experience. She was earlier working in Sassoon also. She's an alumni of BJ Medical College for postgraduate in psychiatry. And her interest lies in child and adolescent psychiatry and in community psychiatry. I know her as a friend, a colleague, and she's a very good mentor, teacher to our postgraduates, and an extremely sincere, dedicated worker in our profession. So Dr. Manjari, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti Madam, for your introduction. And Dr. Kaustubh has already given a general overview of the psychological consequences which have had happened in this epidemic. But as a patient, I have experienced it from both the sides. Like I went into the patient's shoes, and now it is like a practical tips which I would like to give everyone, like how exactly COVID affects your mental state and how you are going to deal with it. So I will just start my screen sharing. So I would like to start with my story exactly. Like I was working in COVID care hospital. Like now it is the 7th month, and as a doctor, like all of us, like are now very well aware of the symptoms, mode of care, and what the course COVID illness takes. but like experiencing yourself, like in spite of knowing everything, and one day you know that some or the other time you and your family may be in the place of that patient. So that anxiety is there for all healthcare care professionals. But somehow when it actually strikes you, it is a very stressful experience, and I completely empathize with the patient's reactions when they are undergoing this process of maybe suffering or recovery from COVID. So when my the I have a senior citizen in my family and a kid, and I was quite overwhelmed when the senior citizen, my mother-in-law, who was diabetic, who started having symptoms of COVID, and we were all fine at that time. So it was almost like a disbelief when we got to know about her diagnosis, that now she has turned out to be positive. And then one by one everyone started to have some symptoms, and it was literally like an emotional roller coaster, because even though you are like very familiar with, and you yourself know, like you can be hospitalized, or what is the process of home isolation. But when all the family members one by one start getting ill, and with a kid in the family, so a task of being a patient, a caregiver, a parent, and a doctor or a medical person to take care of the medical deterioration, if any, of the family members, is was a Herculean task for me. First of all, when the diagnosis of one or the other family member was coming, I was filled in with guilt of probably causing the infection in my family members. This all healthcare workers do have. Going back home after working in the hospital, especially the COVID care hospital, you usually keep on having this anticipatory anxiety that what are you going to cause to your family members. So I was filled in with guilt, and was preoccupied with worries, like what if, now the medical literature usually says that 80% cases are just like any common flu, and most of us have experienced it several times. But as a medical professional, you know many more things, about the complications, plus added on the information which is very widely available and is being circulated on the social media. You usually feel that you can be the one person in that minority, like that 20% who can have complications, and you always imagine you are something to be worse. So this is a very normal psychological uh, mechanisms which you start budding in you. So I was also very scared that if we have medical deterioration, if the saturation levels start falling, if there are any thrombotic complications, so what next? So every time your mind gets overwhelmed by these ideas. And plus, now as a medical professional, knowing everything is also sometimes a disadvantage, because then you have so many guidelines, so many friends and colleagues, and your medical people surrounding you with so many medical suggestions. And the anxiety starts piling up after hearing so many things from multiple people, and the process of hospitalization, taking care of my kid. So it was it was a tough time and a stressful time. So this reaction, like I almost had everything, like from disbelief, even though I was primed and knew that it can happen some or the other time, but there was disbelief, and it was followed by denial. Like how can it happen to me? We are taking all the precautions, and but still then it has happened. So that denial it followed, then guilt, especially the person who is young and who is maybe possibly carrying the infection. There are tremendous ideas of guilt. Then feel comes in a stage of panic, like now what to do. Like you were working till the last previous day, everything was going on fine, and suddenly now you are restricted to your home, no one is able to contact you, you are isolated, and it fills you with a sense of panic, like what if you have medical deterioration, what if you are not able to get the things, what if you are not able to contact people which you want to. So it is filled with panic, and then comes a stage of confusion, this treatment, that treatment, or what to do, where to go. So it is after that comes the stage of confusion. And then was the anxiety, of course, that like uh, what can happen next. So I was filled in with anxious thoughts, I had palpitations, tremors. So all symptoms which Dr. Kaustubh has elaborated, they literally happen when actually you are undergoing the process. and then sets in a stage of dysphoria. When you don't feel, dysphoria is like a sense of mild depression, we can say, when it is like you are not able to resume or you are not able to fulfill the routine activities which you were previously doing. So I almost have experienced all these psychological reactions when me and my family were undergoing this COVID illness. So now, from my practical experience, I would like to share some mental health care tips, especially for doctors and for the patients, which they can pass it on to. Because this is normal, like being scared, being anxious about COVID is a very normal phenomenon. All of us are facing these uncertainties and confusion. But now, like how we are going to prime our own mind when we are like telling our patients or for ourselves, because we are medical people are at high risk. So these are some tips which I would like to share with all of you. Now, first and foremost, like in the negative state, I mean, in the negative state means before you get COVID, like no one desires like some or the other day I'm going to be positive. No one wants it, but it is like the most certain possibility also, because people are at high risk, and definitely some or the other time it can happen to you. So we have to hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. So basically, what is it like? Having anxiety when you are having COVID is a normal thing. But before you get COVID, if you are not mentally and logistically prepared for that, it overwhelms you when it actually strikes you. So before you get COVID, yeah, this is for patients also. Like we psychiatrists get many patients. की डॉक्टर मला झालं तर आता काय करायचं? Or what will happen? So what we tell the patient, like how to prepare your mind. First is about logical preparedness. So when we have a plan ready in our mind, first is like plan the home isolation. So if you are living in a home, if you get COVID, how are you going to plan? How are you going to plan the being isolated at home? How are you, if you have to go to the hospital, which hospital you are going to go? Or identify the resources. Okay, so the support persons, the medical personnel, which help. So that has to be done prior. So today, when you go back home, or you can tell your patient that eventually you have to prepare your mind for that. Okay, so logistical preparedness for like planning home isolation and hospitalization, financial preparedness, a very important and a practical task which we have to do. Like we have to set in our, you have to envisage that this can be the expenses. So insurance and whatever preparedness is required, that has to be done beforehand. Always keep a stock of the essential needs, because for a caregiver this is a very tough task. Like when you suddenly the doors close, of course the lockdown has made us rehearse everything without any help and without any external support. But still then you should always be prepared as regards to the essential needs, medicines, and protective kits if required. And also identify the support person. Yeah, because if all your family becomes ill, you need to identify some third person who may be like, you have to identify such support persons and medical as well as non-medical resources who may be of help to you emotionally also, and instrumentally also. So if this task, if you just note it down for yourself, like before or I should not have that diagnosis of being positive, but eventually if me or my some family members are having this diagnosis, I need to be prepared with these things. So then your mind becomes relaxed. It doesn't mean that you stop taking precautions, or your anxiety will reduce, but then it is like, that eventually if it happens to you, you are like mentally better prepared to deal with it. So this was like in a negative state what you have to prepare mentally. Then once you are positive, the first thing what we have to do is that always remember that stress, exhaustion, being too much strained out by the burdens and worries are going to affect your physical health. Because when I was quite strained out and overburdened, I realized that even my SpO2 had started dropping. Of course, anxiety, stress, being burdened yourself, it is going to affect your physical well-being. And your most important priority is to maintain your physical well-being when you are diagnosed with COVID. So most important thing what we have to do is not to be panicky and face the diagnosis, because now eventually we have prepared your mind that one or the other day this is one possibility which can happen in these difficult times. So it stress always affects your physical health. So what mental tasks you have to do? That think about the tasks which are important for you for that day, right? So we think like beyond. Our mind is like a super express train which goes in like what will happen if I have the cytokine storm. So instead of thinking about the things which can happen next week, think for that day. That today what task I am supposed to do, what my medical monitoring is supposed to be done for myself. So when you focus your short-term um goal, like what is the I have to do for today, then it becomes very bearable. The next thing is like taking good rest, relaxation, sleep, and rest. These are very very important when you get diagnosed to be positive or you are suffering from it. Even though you are a caregiver, it is advised that mental relaxation can happen if you indulge in physical relaxation. And a very important don'ts which I had to emphasize, that there is a tendency of people to just talk about it. I mean, emotional support, like ventilating your concerns, is a very important point. But don't overwhelm yourself talking about your illness. Yeah, because patients, when they are in the state of panic, they usually tend to like talk extremely. They will call up multiple people and tell that, okay, I'm having positive, I have been diagnosed to be positive, and now what to do? And people will give their own advices, and it increases your autonomic arousal, right? So you can become very much overwhelmed by talking about your illness to almost every people or even to your family members, that okay, I'm having a this symptom, I'm having that symptom. So don't exactly catastrophize your symptoms. That is my first tip which I want you and your patients who are being diagnosed as positive to know, that please do not catastrophize your illness. Second thing is, please don't seek advice from multiple people. Yeah, because when you are like talking about your illness, there are chance from the other side you are getting many advices as well. Try doing this, try doing that. Okay, so it's okay. Like always, well wishers always want something good out of it, but then it increases your confusion. It again catastrophizes your illness. That okay, it may be something very threatening. So it is like you can call people or you can seek emotional support, but again, don't overwhelm yourself and get burdened by these advices. And next thing is very important, which is our psychological therapeutic principle, that the things which are beyond your control should not be focused upon. Like you do not focus on those things which are beyond your control. Like especially for doctors, like eventually you try to like prevent, like how can I prevent my own complications? But sometimes as I had discussed with some of the expert faculties who are in critical care, that there are no predictors as such, and there is no sure shot predictor in COVID. That is why it is so uncertain. So if you yourself start treating yourself as or envisaging that you are going to have some complications, then it becomes like overwhelming. So you should not focus on the things which are not which are not in your control. So let your body handle it. If your mind starts handling it, you become doubly ill. Okay. So these were the initial tasks which I want to share for the patient. Then very important thing, like what tasks we had done, like when before the diagnosis of COVID, that should be continued after the diagnosis of COVID as well. That means, of course, you are worried that what will happen if I need to be hospitalized, what will happen if I start my inflammatory markers go up, what will happen if I land up in that process of cytokine storm or any thromboembolic complications, what will happen? So it is like you have to list, you have to figure it out. Like Dr. Kaustubh has already told us, mindfulness. It means being aware of your own emotions. Okay, so when we are aware that I am having this worry in my mind, I am having a catastrophic thought in my mind that my family members are being hospitalized. So okay, just take a deep breath and list your concerns. I am having worry about this. I am having worry about hospitalization. I am worried about my finances. How can I spend? so much. I'm worrying about my child, the other dependent members in my family. I'm worried about worsening about my symptoms. Just note it down or list it. List your concerns and worries and discuss it with your family members and support people. Those support people whom you have identified who are near and dear to you, or with your family members with a problem solving approach. Just discussing it like now what will happen, other people will also like react in the similar manner will not help you. You have to discuss with a problem solving approach. Okay, if we need hospitalization, what three things we have to do? If I'm worrying about caring of my dependents, what is the plan which we can think of currently? So if you are dealing with the problem solving approach and develop plans about each action which you are taking, an outline of an action which you eventually may need to take, helps in reducing anxiety to a major extent. Okay, so that panic stage when you are too burdened with like the possibilities, just note it down for your own self and for your family members and discuss it. See what we are going to do if we are facing this emergency or we are facing any undesirable situation. So this problem solving approach, it helps us in like reducing that panic phase which we may undergo. Yeah, so these are very important mental tasks. It figures out your anxiety. You can see your anxiety from a third person's perspective. Then very important thing is what we also followed is like trusting a single experienced medical advice and following the instructions meticulously. Yeah. So as Dr. Kaustub also has said that we should not follow the social media forwarded guidelines. I mean, there are many guidelines and they may not be false. I mean, there are multiple people have got success with a number of other treatments as well. So, but it is very like as a doctor also, if you trust your colleague or your the expert who is treating you, your confusion and burden becomes less. Yeah, even as a psychiatrist, if I undergo depression myself, I will not medicate myself, but I will like try to consult my colleague psychiatrist or some another psychiatrist who can like treat me well. So it is like we don't have to follow the guidelines by your own self, but you have to seek help from the expert who is like treating you. This is very important, and it helped us to like decrease the confusion which we had about the treatment. Practicing pranayam or any breathing exercises and relaxation, it helps. Yeah, and this is what I practically observed that our lung functions, it is obviously known that it improves your lung functions and it increases the mental calm. Yeah, when you are like in the state of autonomic arousal and feeling extremely burdened and panicked, you can like practice such breathing exercises, relaxation techniques which Dr. Kaustub has already highlighted, and some deep breathing techniques which we practice. So that literally like serve to reduce some sort of arousal which we underwent. So this is very helpful practically. Then a very important thing that as I initially told that catastrophization should be avoided. So that people who are in home isolation should continue to pursue their routines. Like it is the best time when you can spend time with your family. You can pursue your hobbies. So anything which is like distracting yourself or it is reducing the um, uh, um, catastrophization of that illness should be done. Yeah, and even hospitalized and stable patients can continue with the activities which are mentally refreshing. Yeah, so constantly thinking about that illness and constantly thinking about what will happen next is going to like increase the anxiety. So try to do tasks, try to see the positive aspect of it, that it is a time for you to listen to your body, listen to your mind, like what exactly you want, like your hobbies or some time that your body is like wanting some rest. So if you take it on a positive perspective, then automatically you start relaxing. Now very important thing is like caring for the caregivers, like usually caregivers are themselves patients and have some mild symptoms, or they may be negative and having to be have the responsibility of taking care of all the other people in their family who are positive. So very important tip for them is that they should not physically overburden themselves. Yeah, so there are multiple tasks, the home chores, the medical management, and taking care of the other people in the family. So this has to be avoided. Like you have to set limits for yourself as caregiver, because being you yourself being fit is the most important requirement of your family. Yeah, so they should not physically overburden themselves. And again, the requirements can be divided, okay, between patients, caregivers, and the relatives. And so again, categorize them, like what exactly you want, the medical management, then which instrumental support you are going to take, whom you are going to contact for logistics, for payments, for any other items, and whom you are going to voice your concerns. So I told that don't take advice or just don't talk, but emotional support is very important, like voicing your concerns, someone comforting you and supporting you is very important. So identify your near and dear one whom you can talk. You can talk. It is very normal to cry. It is very normal to feel very bad and low. So just voice and take support from people. And people who are providing this emotional support should also keep in mind that they should listen to people, listen and empathize. That I perfectly understand like what situation you are going through, and just don't advise them altogether. So why don't you try this? So it confuses the person whom you are comforting. So they should just listen to what their concerns are, and then like maybe provide them the help which they require. Okay, so this is very important. Then, so caregivers should like divide these requirements and then identify resources. Okay, so you yourself don't have to like maybe there will be multiple people who will be trying to contact you, or the government authorities are maybe trying to contact you. So you have to take things one by one. Then organizing these commitments, it eases out your multitasking and it decreases the physical burden as well. Yeah, so that is very important. And most important thing is sometimes you have to actively seek help. Yeah, because you yourself are restricted to the house and you are not able to get out of that quarantine. So help, maybe it may be your society members, it may be your relatives, your friends. So if it is required, don't hesitate. You should not hesitate to take help, because maybe eventually will require it the next day. So these are some of the my important tips for the caregiver. Then next important thing is like how to cope post COVID. Like fortunately, our symptoms like by 3 weeks or so, we were able to resume our routines. Some people may take less and more time, but coping post COVID, it may be to various severities, mild or severe or this thing. But when you come out of it, definitely there are some changed perspectives. It is like a sense of relief, or you become newly rejuvenated to have like it is a sense of relief that fortunately you are able to like live the life normally like other people. So sometimes it becomes your perspectives change. That is a very positive thing which can happen. One thing which can happen is about stigma. Like even after usually everyone knows that COVID doesn't infect you after a period of mostly 15 or 17 days after the quarantine, but mingling in society, socialization, especially in the community, it becomes difficult. Yeah, so like when you mix yourself in the society, many a times people are you observe people being anxious, or sometimes you observe rejection. So this is also a normal phenomenon, and we have to like educate our patients to deal with this also, dealing with the stigma, dealing with again resuming your routine. So in our hospital, in our Bharti hospital, we have like this post-COVID OPD as well, in which we are trying to comfort patients like after COVID now how you are going to cope. Some people may have very severe psychological reactions, or they might have lost their loved ones. So dealing with all these grief reactions, dealing with the anxieties of people when they are coming out of COVID. This is also very important. Yeah, because as I highlighted in the beginning, many patients, 80% of the time, some are the with the varying degrees of severity of COVID, you eventually have to start your normal life routines, and dealing with the people's concerns about their medical, their psychological reactions, and their social responses becomes very important. Sometimes your physical activities slow down, you tend to get malaise, exhaustion, sometimes somnolence. But dealing with all these phenomenon has to be done comprehensively by all medical expertises, including pulmonologists, physicians, and psychiatrists. So this was all my message to everyone, that COVID has multiple psychological reactions. Accept that you will have these psychological reactions, but if you indulge in positive mental health techniques, then coping becomes much more bearable. So thank you all of you for patient listening, and I thank all of the IMA members along with the organizers to give me the opportunity to put my thoughts in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
madam.
you.
Uh,
Yeah, thank you, Manjiri.
just
Yeah.
so, madam, just a minute, just a second. Before going for question answers, we'll give time to have their question answers, because a lot of them have to decide what to ask, and we have to give some time to the organizers of DigiShield. They have requested me to say a few words, because these people are with IMA since I think 4 5 months, and giving and doing a wonderful job, because DigiShield has prevented a lot of, I would say, direct to direct contact with the patients. So I'd request Mr. Sanket, if he's there, and I would like to first introduce these people. Sanket Barle is the founder, chairman, and health expert. They are doing a Google venture for USA citizen. About 40% of their business is from USA, and doing a good job here also. And now his second partner, Mr. Deepan Mehta, is also DG Shield, I would say, long time. He's doing a great work here also and abroad also. He carries a decade of long experience in operating, controlling critical business processes in this field, financial services, healthcare, pharmaceuticals. I request Mr. Deepan to enlighten us how this DG Shield can help all of our doctor field, not to have direct contact or whatever the things, how to download your app and how to go for the earning also direct from the patient, because patients sometimes don't pay. They have to directly contact on cell, and that's that. And exactly what to do, please enlighten us and our delegates. Thank you. Please go ahead. After that, we'll have question answer session. Please.
Thank you, Shantiti sir. Thank you, IMA, for giving Digital as an opportunity to organize this webinar. I will not take much time, like what is Digital and all. Just we'll have like what challenges currently doctors are facing to have digitalization. So, like doctor has to purchase the system or laptop to use any software to have use EHR or for teleconsultation. So Digital is basically easy to use. It is available from Android Play Store and iOS App Store, and doctor can use from their mobile. So currently doctors are using like WhatsApp video call or any other medium to use teleconsultation with their patient in current COVID situation. So the difficulties in WhatsApp video call is that they doesn't have to maintain their medical records. The prescription or anything, any medical record, medical history, they have to send through the WhatsApp. So instead of doing that, through DigiShield, they can have their digital concern of the patient. They can do teleconsultation through DigiShield. They can receive the payment from the patient through DigiShield. So if a patient doesn't pay the consulting fees and doctor has done the consultation, so patient will not generate the prescription unless the payment has been made by the patient. So doctor doesn't have to worry about that. If I have done the consultation, I have sent the prescription, what about my payment, what about my consulting charges? So unless and until the patient doesn't pay the payment to the doctor, the prescription will not be generated for the patient. And it's very easy to use, very handy, and doctors are currently used to write the prescription on their paper, so they are not much techno savvy like typing the prescription and uploading and sending and all. So instead of just their they have to follow the traditional method, register the patient, write the prescription, upload it in the patient's portal, and patient will receive the soft copy of the prescription through SMS link. So if patient doesn't have the smartphone as well, then also patient can have the prescription through the mobile SMS. Patient doesn't need to download any application or something. So I will just share you like 2 minutes short video as how to use the DigiShield.
Download the DigiShield app from the Play Store or App Store now. New users will go through a quick one-time registration process. After filling in some basic information, registration is complete and you can start using DigiShield. Logging into DigiShield is easy, safe and secure. Enter your registered mobile number. An OTP is sent to your mobile. Enter the OTP and you are logged in. No passwords to forget. Making a patient's appointment is easy. Just click on the calendar sign, enter the patient's name and mobile number. Select date and time of the appointment and that's it. A confirmation message will be sent to the patient and so will a reminder. A day before the appointment, your patient will be automatically contacted by the DigiShield agent. The Shield agent will collect the patient's symptoms, history of present illness and more. The agent will also collect any consents or indemnity that you want to collect from them. Based on the DigiShield interaction, you will be alerted to the patient corona carrier risk. It's easy to do a phone or a video consultation with the patient. DigiShield recommends that patients that have been flagged with a high or moderate corona carrier risk should be consulted via consultation first. Click on the phone icon or the video icon to do a safe and secure teleconsultation with the patient. In order to issue an e-prescription to a patient, tap on the pencil icon, tap on the camera icon to take a photo of the prescription and you're all set. The prescription is sent securely to the patient immediately. DigiShield is easy to use and you will be online within 5 minutes of downloading the app. Download DigiShield on the Android Play Store or Apple App Store today. Protect yourself, your patients, your community. Download DigiShield for free today.
So would just recommend doctor to download it from Android Play Store and iOS App Store. It's available free for lifetime for the doctors. So no need to worry about their prescription lost and doing telemedicine through WhatsApp. Instead of them, you can do teleconsulting through DigiShield and maintain their medical records. Thank you. Over to you, Sanjay sir.
Thanks, Deepen. First, I would like to thank Dr. Manjari Datar. Did a very excellent presentation. And I hope all the delegates are grounded for question answers. I would request Dr. Jyoti Shetty madam to continue the session. Please, Dr. Jyoti ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sancheti. Thank you, Dr. Datar, for a very comprehensive review of how to take care of yourself and your family. As Manjari said, we have a post-COVID OPD also now, Bharati, and Bharati has been a COVID hospital from the beginning. We welcome any questions. I think there are a couple of questions in the chat box. So there is another question by an anonymous attendee who's traveling to the US but feeling very anxious. But his travel is unavoidable, so how to cope up and prepare for it? So I would ask any of the panelists to answer for that, Manjari or Kaustubh.
Yeah, he wants to travel to US, but it's not avoidable for him, and now he's feeling anxious. So it is like anxious about being diagnosed to be COVID positive, I assume, or it is anxious of like being accepted in the another country, how will I spend my quarantine period? So when you are traveling from one place to another, there can be a number of anxieties, like how other people perceive you when you are like in a living in a containment area, or eventually when you become positive, how are you going to deal with it? Yeah. So in my first slide, I think I had highlighted like in that negative state, and when you eventually that state is going to change to positive, how exactly you are going to mentally prepare yourself? Yeah. So it is like eventually what all threats you can have there when you go there, what can be the problems practically which you can face when you are landing up in US. Just voice your concerns, and then after voicing those concerns, you can take support from either an instrumental person or another emotional support person, like how you are going to deal with it. And eventually, as I said, that being positive, if you are prepared about it, eventually you are if you are going to be stressed out, just say that it is going to be a temporary phase which you will be dealing with, and there identify the helps which you are going to take eventually. So I think in migrations and all these issues are going to crop in right now, when people are trying to go from one or the other place. So you have to be prepared about the eventual reactions which can happen from people.
Thank you, Manjari. I think there's another question about from a student this time. How to handle anxiety, fear, and apprehension of getting infected. Both my parents are working in COVID care. I'm terrified about it for the past 6 months, and it's affecting my studies. Kostubu, would you want to take that? Are
I
you
think,
there?
yeah, I'm there, but Manjari madam will be in good position because you
Yeah.
are in college also, and I think
Okay.
I
Then,
respond, but maybe if Dr. Manjari go ahead and then I'll add in.
yeah, sure.
So, as a student, I think you are like extremely concerned about your parents, and your parents who are working in a hospital. We have also undergone the same situation when, as medical professionals, everyone thinks that we are at high risk and pass on the infection to family members. And you being worried about your parents is a very normal thing. But again, we in anxiety we usually counsel our patients that sometimes we have to accept that concern, how to reduce your anxiety to the level of concern. Yeah. So what is in our hands is taking precautions, then taking good care of your parents. But what is beyond your control, that eventually if there is some untoward thing which may happen, which is our fear, which is always there in our mind, we have to think that even if it is there, how can I deal with it? How can I do my maximum to help out my parents and my family during that period? Okay. And even if you encounter with the diagnosis, you have to keep in mind that we always tend to catastrophize. You can remember about your past coping techniques. Maybe you were ill, or maybe some of your family members were ill in the past. You have come out of it. You have coped it. So it is like, if we mentally catastrophize situation, it becomes like a very big threat to all of us. So sometimes, even if I face these consequences, I am strong enough, mentally strong enough to deal with whatever situation I am going to face, right? So it is like, if you remove that dread or that threat which is associated with COVID, it is mainly because there is so much of course, our government wants us to take precautions. But if we tend to make it like a very big diagnosis which we are suffering, of course there is stigma. But then, if you're mentally prepared, like even if there is my fear comes true, it should not come, but if it comes true, I am mentally strong enough to face that consequences because I have prepared my mind. I have listed out my worries, and now I will take care of my parents. But even if there is something untoward, then also I will continue to do that. Okay. And your studies, like, then you have to think about it, that when I am mentally prepared, I have my mental space available to take care of other things which are there important for me, which includes your studies. Yeah. So I hope I gave uh, some sort of relief to you when you think of being anxious about your parents. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Manjari. I think Dr. Chinmay Deshpande's question to DigiShield has been answered with regards to whether the patient has to download one and the cost. So that, I think, has been answered in the chat box. There doesn't seem to be any more questions. So I'll just hand over to, and thank you very much for allowing me to coordinate this session. I'll just hand over to Dr. Sancheti and Dr. Nimkar.
Thank you, madam. I would like to ask President Madam, Dr. Arti Nimkar, does she have to say something?
This is a very good session. Both has given their very good share their thoughts and experiences, and I think many of us have learned how to tackle with the stress and how to be positive and how not to be afraid of the getting infection. So I think this is a very important information that is needed in this situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Dr. Arvind, sir, can you add something?
I think everything that needed to be said has already been said and discussed. So I just want to congratulate Dr. Kaustubh and Dr. Manjari for a very good, informative, and for a change, non-medical perspective from a medical person about how to deal and cope with things. Because I'm sure we all agree that it wasn't burdened with technical terms, which we all have learned and forgotten by now, but it was very practical take-home messages from either of them. So thank you both for sharing your knowledge and experiences. And yes, I think like any other illness, being better prepared to deal with it even before you have an illness is the best way to combat it in a better way. So we'll all do that. So thank you very much.
Thank all the faculties. And I do request all the delegates also for next session. I would request all our stalwarts of psychiatry that we will have a webinar on suicide, depression, and other whatever the need be of our doctor colleagues. So we'll go for that. So also we'll have a certificate course in psychiatry, small tips for general practitioners and other people. So I would like you to help us in that also, so that doctors will be enriched by the knowledge into day-to-day practice. So whatever you have any queries, just be free to tell us. Lastly, I would conclude by saying in this COVID, you have to, I would say, reduce fear. What is we can say anxiety, neurosis, and other thing as a take-home message given by our great faculty members. So social distancing, mask. We are going for some mask distribution project from UK. We have received some mask and we'll distribute in slums also. Those who don't wear masks, so that we have to emphasize wearing of mask, social distancing. Already I have told, and whatever the things need be to reduce fear, to create awareness that for it is a time for all and it will bypass. So we have to be positive in attitude, not to be a corona positive, and see that all are safe, and I would say have a healthy, wealthy, and peaceful life. Thanks all. Thank you, the faculties, and thank you, delegates, in participating in this great webinar. Thank you.